Hey, happy Father's Day. And I know a lot of you fathers out there are going to go ahead and enjoy a little bit of wine, maybe a little bourbon, maybe a little scotch, maybe a little American single malt or rye whiskey. Today's a very special bourbon that I promised a young man who is a father. I'm going to review New Riff Single Barrel. This is a barrel select. Stay tuned. Okay, this is Scott. You are rookie. Yeah, you are tuned into the Rookie Wine and Whiskey Enthusiast channel, YouTube's only YouTube channel that really focuses on Washington State wines and spirits. But today is one of those days where we're going to go ahead and step out of Washington State and go all the way to Kentucky, Newport, Kentucky, as a matter of fact. And we are going to go ahead and review a very special single barrel select bottle of New Riff. The name on this barrel select, it's from the Liquor Express store, and it is called Sweet Baby James Bourbon. So let's go ahead and review it. Now, let's do a little thing on New Riff here. New Riff is a new distillery that was established in 2014 in Newport, Kentucky by Ken Lewis, previous owner to, I believe, the Party Source liquor stores. And he wanted to do a new distillery where everything other than the mash bill is out in the open. Matter of fact, I would love to visit the facility because my understanding is their facility, all their stills are encased in glass for everybody to see. Now, this particular bourbon is a single barrel sour mash bourbon bottled at 112.6 proof. Now, what is sour mash? Sour mash is, if you're familiar with making sourdough bread, you take a little bit of the dough mixture from the previous batch and you mix it with the new dough mixture, basically helping to start the fermenting process. So that's what sour mash is. Now, this is their own distillate. Prior to their distillate being bottled, they were sourcing from MGP, which is multi-grain products out of Indiana, under the OKI label, which stood for Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, which is the basically where Newport is. It is basically a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk directly about this single barrel. Now the problem, and I've always had this problem with single barrels in particular, is that single barrels are notoriously different barrel to barrel, which is why a lot of your large companies will take single barrels and blend them to create a bourbon profile. So, but again, what a lot of companies will do is they'll take the single barrels though, and they'll put them set aside so that people come in and do barrel picks, which is what Liquor Express did in this particular bottle. Now, on the nose on this, now I just poured it normally because, as you can see, I have been really enjoying this bourbon. Normally, I would go ahead and let this sit in my glass 10-15 minutes because even at 112.6 proof, it has a significant alcohol burn on the nose. But once you get past that, you get a heavy, charred caramel nose, circus peanuts, there's a dark cherry, and then sounds like the seaplane is taking off from the lake this morning. You get allspice with a little bit of cinnamon and vanilla on the nose. This is a very on the nose, well balanced, with the exception of the alcohol burn. Very well balanced on the nose. So let's go ahead and take a sip. You almost have to shock your palate because that alcohol nose burn that you get on the nose, it immediately desensitizes your palate and gives it a good tingle on the tongue. But once that tingle goes away, the caramel and cinnamon really come to the forefront. There's a barrel char that is mixed in there. With that barrel char, the oak tannins, there's a little bit of bitterness. There is the vanilla, and then the cherry notes really come out, followed by, which I didn't get on the nose, the circus peanut sweetness kind of goes away, and I'm getting a kind of a musty grain silo note taste feel to it. It's unique. It's not unpleasant at all, and I know some people may or may not like that grain, that musty grain note. But on this, I think it pairs well with the cherry as it comes through. Now, I have, like I said, I have some experience with this bottle, and I'm going to go ahead and for the amount that I've poured in here, I'm going to pour in just about a half a capful of bottled water. Now, I know that there are purists out there that say, well, you got to drink it neat. Well, you know what? Drink the whiskey the way you like to drink it. This particular bottle, now, there are higher proof bourbons that I do not put water in. Antique 107, which is a Weller product that I have, I don't put water in. I've got some cast strength scotches at 120 proof that I don't put water in. But I've also had higher proof bourbons that I do put water in. Stag Junior is a perfect example. That one definitely needs water to be tamed. So, but now let's go ahead. And the other thing with this new Riff, by the way, and I did mention this before, they do non-chill they do not do any non-chill filtering on this. So that leaves a little bit more of the oils in there. So on the nose now, with the water, that alcohol burn goes away, which I really do appreciate. And once that alcohol burn goes away, that cinnamon and caramel come up. It's not as intense, it's slightly muted, but it's there. But on the nose, the cherry really pops out now. So I've got caramel, cinnamon spice, and the cherry. So let's go ahead and take the taste the palate now. Oh, that is so good. There is no more tingling. I mean, it's a little bit, but it's very muted. The cinnamon and the spice or the caramel really is now a nice flow. Yeah, the vanilla now, the barrel char that I had and the bitterness and the tannins it's been replaced almost all by the vanilla, and it smoothly transitions to that cherry note. The water also has lengthened the finish on this. So now I'm getting that vanilla, that cherry, dark cherry, almost, I don't want to say it's maraschino cherry because that would be too sweet, but it's a very tart, dark cherry note on this. And then I'm still getting that grain silo mustiness on this. Yeah, this is definitely a bourbon that goes great with a little bit of water to it. And again, I just use regular old bottled water. That way I'm not getting any of the fluoride or any of the other flavors that whatever my provider through the city water may be influencing it with. So at least with bottled water, I'm getting something that is relatively clean and fresh. The finish on this, it is a very long finish. Something that on an ounce and a half pour of this, it would probably take me a good hour and a half to enjoy. This is a definite sipping bourbon. Rating on this is now, and again, you have to remember this is a single barrel select. So this is not a bottle that is going to be available. Okay, you can go to New Riff or your retailers in Ohio and Kentucky where I know this is sold in stores. But the people that pick this barrel, this is definitely an 89 out of 100 pick. So that being said, now I'm going to give you the reason why this is a special Father's Day edition for the rookie here. One of the gentlemen that helped do the barrel pick on this particular, his name is James Ryan Miller. Him and his wife had a son born with Tay-Sachs disease, which is a very rare neurological disease that attacks both the brain stem and the brain. And it happens to children. Symptoms, I believe, don't start showing till about 6 months after they're born. Uh, but it's 100% fatal. There is no cure for this disease. And when James selected this, and it was barreled, now this particular bourbon was barreled on 11/5/14. It was bottled on 11/12/18. And the side of the bottle says, Sweet Baby James Bourbon, bottled in memory of James Ryan Miller Jr., a life lost for too early. Barrel number 14-885. I received this bottle in late December, early January, and I thanked James, and I wanted to do a review of it back then, but it just didn't seem right. James Miller Jr. Passed on in the first week of April of 2019, and I'm glad I held off to do the review of this till Father's Day weekend. James, this review is in memory of your son and you. I am too a person who lost two children, two young boys at an early age. My wife and I now have just our one son. So I can't imagine what you went through you and your wife have gone through the last year and a half since your son was born. But know that you are in my thoughts and prayers. I knew that when you picked this, based on the dates, that you knew that this disease was 100% fatal. And I can't imagine what you were going through. I know that you told me that you had saved 30 bottles of it for yourself to give out as gifts. And I feel very lucky to be the recipient of one of those 30 bottles. So for all those fathers out there, please raise a glass for those that have lost children on this very special day. They are still fathers, whether or not their children are around or not. For those that are interested in Tay-Sachs, I'm going to go ahead and put a link down below as to what the disease is. I'm not familiar with the foundations that specifically try to combat this disease. And hopefully, James, you may comment and put a comment down in the comment section if you have a particular foundation that you approve of. If people are interested in making a donation to that particular foundation, please go ahead and put that link down below in my comments. For others, if you don't have the particular foundation, if you want to go ahead and make a donation to your local children's hospital, most of them have to deal with diseases like this, like Tay-Sachs or St. Jude's or some of the others. The Ronald McDonald House is another great example of a charity that helps families deal with children's diseases. Please go ahead and make that donation in memory of James Ryan Miller Jr. As I like to say, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this today, and I'm going to go ahead and say a prayer for you, James, and your wife. And I know that my sons greeted your son at the gates in heaven, and were there to greet him and welcome him in. So, as I like to finish out, cheers. Life is too short for either bad wine or bad whiskey. And thank you very much for all tuning in. And please, if you do like this video, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up on it. If you want to go ahead and share the new Riff Bourbon or James's message about Tay-Sachs disease, go ahead and please share this content in your local bourbon groups, in your local whiskey groups, in your local wine groups. And please go ahead and hit the thumbs up. And if you do want to go ahead and subscribe and you like this type of content, these types of reviews, go ahead and subscribe and then hit the bell button. That way you guys are notified when new content is uploaded. So cheers. Again, life is too short for either bad wine or bad whiskey. James, God bless.